Digital platforms are being misused to subvert science and spread disinformation and hate to billions of people. This clear and present global threat demands clear and coordinated global action. Our policy brief on information integrity on digital platforms puts forward a framework.
So much of what we do in our lives is all based on our understanding of the world. And if an adversary can shape that or push it in directions that are favorable to them, that can have a huge impact. And I think it's only in recent years that we've really come to fully appreciate that impact and to look for ways to push back against it. My name is Chris Smith. I'm a Foreign Service officer. I'm currently a senior advisor to the Global Engagement Center here at the Department of State. Someone says, for example, these people that you dislike, they're even worse than you thought. And let me tell you something. Well, that's very pleasant for people sometimes to hear that the biases that they already have are even more correct than they thought. Everyone loves to be told they're right, and a lot of disinformation plays into that. Information that's told in a highly emotional way is more likely to be accepted than information that's told without that emotional hook. People who craft disinformation know all of this, and they use all of these things to try to get their narratives out. And oftentimes they're very good at it. The State Department's focus on disinformation really began once it became clear that United States adversaries were really using disinformation as part of their strategy to keep us from realizing U.S. goals overseas and to try to divide the American public, to make us less effective as a country. A diplomat overseas at an embassy is often the very first one who sees and hears these kind of disinformation narratives, these stories that are being passed around. That diplomat can then let Washington know, hey, there's a problem. Here in the country I'm in, people believe this terrible thing about the United States that's not true. A lot of those reports feed right into places like the Global Engagement Center. Once the GEC understands these new disinformation narratives, we can work out ways to push back against them.
It's not true. None of it's true.
Some ways are more effective than others. The classic way has been simple refutation. You know, someone tells a lie and you stand up and you say, no, that's not true. I am refuting that. That's not the case. That's ineffective, largely because through refuting the lie, you end up repeating the lie, and you end up raising the profile of that lie. If all that they hear is that the United States is coming out and saying something isn't true, people can just be left with the perception that, oh, I guess there's a debate over whether this thing is true. Moving it more to a counterbrand approach, where we're not discussing one particular falsehood, but discussing kind of why this particular adversary says these things, that can be helpful. Another best practice is pre-bunking, where if you know particular lies that your adversary is about to tell, warn people about it in advance, so that they hear from you first, hey, watch out for this.
So how do you decide what's misinformation and when to use this word, since the word can encompass different ideas amongst Canadians?
Unlike all of you in this room, or most of you in this room, I never studied political science. I studied English literature. So words really matter to me. And you may call me old-fashioned, but I tend to defer to the actual definitions of words when I use them. And misinformation and disinformation, which you used a little interchangeably, are actually very different things. Disinformation is when things that are false, things that are untrue, are spread by people who don't know any better. Misinformation is a deliberate choice to spread and share falsehoods for a particular purpose, whether it's a personal purpose or a political purpose or a creating chaos purpose. Now, what can start as misinformation can quickly end up being amplified as disinformation. But the entire discourse has to ground itself in something, because you're absolutely right. Who decides what is misinformation and disinformation? Well, if someone looks outside and says it's a beautiful blue sky sunny day today, we would know that's wrong, because our experience here in Ottawa, our experience looking out the window tells us otherwise. But if someone says the earth is flat, you can see extensive YouTube pages devoted by people who've decided, and this is a recent phenomenon over the past decade or so, that the earth is flat, because their experience as they look out to the horizon is, boy, the earth sure looks flat. So it can't just be about perception. You look on the Weather Channel, oh, it's raining in Ottawa. Okay, so it's not a blue sky sunny day. We have to agree that we're going to agree with the Weather Channel on this, or with the scientists from Environment Canada who are saying that it is sunny today in Ottawa, or it is rainy here today in Ottawa. There has to be an acceptance. There has to be an acceptance.
There has to be an acceptance.
Misinformation in 2021 focused on two big issues: vaccines and climate change.
Если меня насильно не заставят, то я не буду идти.
What this shows is what the hospitalisation rates and different age groups.
Some green energy did fail. The freezing temperatures led to shortages in natural gas, the main source of power in the state, and it's largely this that caused the blackouts. We've also seen some conspiracies from COVID misinformation recycled. The idea of a climate lockdown, for example, echoed the same unproven idea about COVID lockdowns, that they are a huge plot by governments and billionaires to control society.
This clear and present global threat demands clear and coordinated global action. Our policy brief on information integrity on digital platforms puts forward a framework